So welcome to the Mecca of carp fishing. It is Barston Lakes. We're here to catch some fish on a method that's caught thousands of pounds of carp, and it's known as the bomb and bag. It's a highly effective method, and we're going to go through today everything you need to know on how to fish the bomb and bag and get the most out of it. So what is PVA and how is it applied correctly? It's simple. It's a mesh bag that you load with your pellets, the desired amount, and it dissolves within a couple of minutes on the bottom, leaving a lovely baited area ready for the fish to pick up on. The bomb and bag is such a simple method, but used correctly, it's ultimate camouflage. It sits on the bottom perfectly and allows the fish to come in and feed over an area with zero scare factor really. It sits flush on the bottom, it hides your hook link, and the hook ratio on it's fantastic. So obviously the rig setup itself, I like to use an elasticated feeder stem, a 45 gram bomb, and then up the bomb size depending on the conditions and the distance that you're fishing. Sometimes there's an optimal hook length. I like to start at around 20 centimeters and then shorten down if I need to. What I found with 20 centimeter hook length is if you've got a silty venue, which is where this is really, really good, when the bomb has a tendency to sink into the silt, and that still leaves the hook bait and your little parcel of food sat on top of the silt so the carp can pick it up easier. Probably the main reason why it outscores the method feeder so much is purely down to its presentation and how neat it sits on the bottom and allows fish to feed over it without being scared. That's the optimum rig. The main thing to focus on for casting it is making sure that the lead is heavier than the bag, because if the lead's lighter than the bag that you're casting, you get the helicopter effect and then it doesn't go where you want it to go. So for setting up the bomb and bag, it's relatively straightforward. So we're going to start off with our hook length. Like I said, we've got 20 centimeters, that's 0.22 to a size 10 gamma hook, a bait spike, and we're just gonna bait spike our wafter, trying to keep it central like that. Then we need a closed latch baiting needle of some description and your bag of pellets in your PVA. You pass the baiting needle through the bag, onto the baiting needle with the hook link loop, close the latch, pull the bag through, and this is the important bit. When you're placing the hook, make sure that the hook is not tangling up on anything and it sits in the bottom of the bag. Then you've got your hook link on your bag. You take your bomb and your quick connector, attach that to the rod, and you're ready for your cast. So we've been through all the rigs and looked at the baits, and what we're going to do now is we're going to figure out where we're going to fish and why we're going to fish there. So Barston as a whole is pretty uniform as a depth. So it's more about distance this time of the year. The fish do tend to sit out in the middle of the lake. So we've decided on a line of around 50 meters to start off with. That's normally a good starting point for this area of the lake. And then we can creep our way out in increments if the fish start to back off, if we're getting indications and we start catching a few. So what we're probably going to do is, first cast, because there's quite a lot of colour in the water today, and Barston does seem to react really, really well to scents and smells. The carp really home in on them. So we're going to load the bag up and we're going to glug the bag. We're going to start off with some liver stim. Can be fairly generous with it. Attach it to our hook link, attach it to the rod, make sure the drag's tight. Going to pick your marker on your fire bank so you know where you're going to each time. And there we go, we're on the clip. So what I do like to do when you're fishing the bomb and bag in a scenario like this is pick a centre line of your swim, and then you can always work left and right off of that area if the fish start to move, or if you're not getting any indications at all. Start our stopwatch like always, so we've got a time indication so we know roughly how long the bag's been out there. Normally, in really cold conditions like we're in today, that bag will break down sort of 15 to 20 seconds, something like that. There's loads of different variants of PVA you can get. You can get fast melt, slow melt. Just a good quality PVA will work fine for what you're trying to do at a place like Barston. So while we're waiting for a bite, we'll just look at why the method is so good. So as a method, the bomb and bag itself, it's great this time of year because it allows you to vary the size of bags that you're making at home, vary your size of pellets that are in them, so you can almost make it attractive to the species and size of fish that you're fishing. It's really, really specific. The other good thing with it as well is as the bag breaks down on the bottom of the lake, the pellets spread over the top of the hook link, so you get ultimate camouflage. On really pressured waters like Barston, I do feel like fish back off of method feeders. They see them all the time. So this is where the bomb and bag works really, really well, because everything's camouflaged on the bottom. The hook link's buried underneath some pellets. All you've got is your hook bait sat there. And I think the fish feel more confident coming in. And also, because you've got the length of the hook link, it's further away from the bomb. We've discussed a little bit about how on really silty venues like we are today at Barston, the lead sinks in the silt, but the bag stays exposed, which means the hook link's always exposed, which again can always be an issue when you're fishing a method feeder, especially if you're trying to chuck really long distances and you need to use a heavy method feeder. It does have a tendency to sink in the silt. So those are some of the benefits really of fishing the bag over the method feeder on a venue like this, and I think that's where it catches so many fish. So we've had 5 casts now on that 50-metre line. We've searched the peg a little bit, we've been left, we've been right, been straight down the middle. We've had no indications, no liners. So the next part of it's probably the most important part really of bag fishing, is just like creeping out now to see if we can try and find some indications or try and find some fish. There'll be fish somewhere in the peg, but it's doing it in the right manner to try and find them and to be able to catch them. So what you don't want to do is just go, right, I was at 50, I'm going to go to 70 because I haven't had a bite, because there's all that water in between. And the strange thing is with Barston, you can move 3 or 4 metres in a direction and go from no bites to 3 fish on the bounce and things like that. So small increments, work your way out, change one thing at a time and see if it works. So what I like to do is, like I said, we're at 50 metres now. So rather than re-stick up, I know that the turn on my reel is just under 1 metre. So I bring it back to my line clip, unclip my line clip, put it into reverse, and then 1, 2, 3 revolutions of the handle, and I know that is just under 3 metres. And then I can have a recast then, so I know I'm roughly at 53 metres. But if I want to come back to that spot, I know that the next cast, if I hit the clip and turn 3 reels back onto the reel, I'm near enough in the same spot again. So it just gives you a reference point of where you've been, how far you've gone out, and it also gives you a rough idea on where it was you were fishing without having to keep getting up and going back to the sticks all the time. So we're going to put a fresh bag on. It's already prepped. Fresh bag. So we're at 53 there. Stent line. Have a chuck there. Move left, move right. See if we can get some indications. And if that doesn't work, we will then start to creep out a little bit further. So we're interrupting your viewing to bring you a little message. So please, can you go on, like the video and subscribe to the channel, and that allows us to bring you loads of new content. It's a very small thing to do, but it means an awful lot to us. So one of the really important things about bomb and bag fishing is using the right glug. So as a bag just sat out in a big lake, it's got no attraction value to it at all really, apart from what's coming off of the pellets. So putting something on the bag, like a glug or an additives of some description, makes it more attractive and draws the fish into the peg. Do I have a favourite? Not really. I think you can have confidence in a glug or confidence in a additive, but at the end of the day, I want to use whatever's going to catch me the most fish. So to have a selection of glugs and additives to be able to try on the day, and whichever one's giving you the most indications and the most bites and ultimately catching you the most fish, that's the one you fish with. There are ones that stand out, and I have mentioned already, like the liver stim. It just seems to keep producing fish over winter for me. But I'm not going to just stick with that. If I'm not getting bites on it, just keep switching it up. You can even blend flavours if you want to. You can mix them together in your own little tubs, use it that way. It's experimenting and trying to find something that you feel works for you on your venue on the specific day. So now we're just going to jump straight into how you make up a PVA mesh bag for the bomb and bag fishing. So all you need is your PVA mesh, pair of scissors, and I like to use a pole pot to measure out my pellets when I'm making it, just so I can make a uniform size bag or adjust the bag as I need to. And then obviously your pellets for making the bag. So first thing you get is your mesh. You tie your knot in the bottom so the mesh is pulled up. Your pole pot, and then you measure out your pellets depending on what you want to put in the bag. So we're using a combination of pellets today, which is the Sweet Supreme fish meal pellets and the Black Magic. Just a quantity of each depending on what you want. Into the PVA mesh, pull yourself off some slack. So we've got a bag like that. We're going to push the pellets down so they make just nice and tight, and then twist the bag. And what that does is it pulls the mesh bag up tight around the pellets. Just an overhand knot. Pull the bag down. And another overhand knot just above the knot that you've just tied. Take your scissors. Cut between the two knots. And then what you're left with is a perfectly formed PVA bag, which is nice and tight. It's not slack. So then when it goes in the water, as it dissolves, the bag breaks down and the pellets explode out. So everybody's got a different way of making bags. Some people use loads of different size pellets in one bag. I feel, for me, what I feel more comfortable doing is having bags of individual size pellets. So 4 mils, 6 mils, 8 mils, and then varying the amount of pellets that's in the bag depending on the situation. That way I can determine what I want to use and why I want to use it, or what is catching the fish. And like I said, there's so many pellet variants that we've got, but two of my favourite, Sweet Betaine pellets and the Black Magic pellets. Making the pellets, like I said, using the pot so you can work out how many pellets you want to put in, or a volume of bait, is really, really important. Take today, for example, it's absolutely freezing. We've had a lot of cold water go in with ice and snow melting. I don't want a massive bag of pellets on the bottom that the fish might come over and go, do you know what, that's actually too much to cope with. So a nice small compact bag, one quick mouthful with a hook bait in it, and we're into fish. But having the options, that's what you need. So obviously once you've made your PVA, ideally making all your PVA bags, do it at home and make sure you store them in an airtight, watertight container. And you can see there, they'll stay fresh. Obviously in the elements, you can't always predict what the weather's going to do, but having them in that sealed tight container will always keep them safe. So it doesn't really matter if it's absolutely throwing it down. You know that you've got bait there that you can use, especially if you're on fish. And keeping them sealed in between bites, that's the way to keep them. Again, there's a couple of variants. So I've got another tub there made up, slightly bigger bags and just a standard Coppins pellet. But again, even in there, there's some variance in the bag sizes, so you can see there, and then a slightly bigger bag next to it. It just gives you options and just gives you a different bait approach depending on the conditions and depending on the situation. So just keep your options open and don't just pigeonhole yourself into one bag that will do everything, because you always need a variation. So we're 2 hours into the session now, and we started at like 50 meters, no indications. We've pushed out, we've had a couple of liners, we've had a couple of fish off that line, and then it's kind of died off again. So now we're just sneaking our way out meter by meter, sort of like, I think we're at 58 at the moment, and sure enough, tip's gone round and we're into another fish. So it's all about keeping in contact with the fish. Nothing's changed method wise, we're still doing exactly the same. It's just the lines are different. I think it's as you hook a couple of fish, they back off and you've just got to kind of like chase them out a little bit. And it's a better fish. Nice F1. And there's another fish in the net. The main thing with bomb and bag fishing, if you get it right, you get rewarded. It's a beautiful F1. Let's get back out and see if we can catch another one. So I think we finally found a bit of a pocket of fish. We've been working our way out metre by metre. We've had 4 fish on the bounce. This one's a skimmer, but all welcome on a cold day like today. There's another fish in the net. So we're faced with really tricky conditions today, with a really nasty crosswind. And that's probably one real positive of the bomb and bag. It casts really, really accurately. In the middle of winter, trying to get, as soon as you start getting indications or bites somewhere in your peg, when you've spent all that time trying to find them, being able to cast to the same point all the time is really, really important. And like I said, when you look at the bomb and bag, it casts so well. Crosswind, a large method feeder, it gets affected so bad with drift. So again, it's a real positive of this method over the top of the actual method feeder. So the bites are coming all around the 6-minute mark now, so indications and bites all around the 6-minute mark. So we're starting to see a couple of patterns starting to show. We figured out what glug it is we want to use, so the stim, liver stim that we've been using seems to be the best one. I've tried the squid, liver seems to be the one that's getting the most bites. So we found out what it is they want to feed on, and now it's just a case of replicating everything and just keep the bites coming. It's difficult as well in conditions like this to get everything right every time, but you've just got to try. It's so easy to let those little errors slip in, and in the winter, the errors are the bit that stops you from winning matches. Another bite and another fish in the net. Small carp this time, but again, lovely fish to catch. On a cold winter's day. That's going to bring us to the end of our session. The weather's really turned on us. It's been a fantastic day at Barston. We've caught some lovely fish on the bag at long range. It's been a fantastic day, really. We've had to swap and change a few things around and follow some fish out, but that's probably some of the main tips to pick up from it, really. You have got to work at the bag. It's not just a simple method of chuck it out and the tip goes round. So the main thing is, remember, use the bag when the method feeder's not really succeeding and catching, and what you end up with is having a fantastic day and netting some beautiful carp, just like that one. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and we'll see you in the next one.